Is that title company, do they have your back? Are they making your clients happy? Or is the closing fun? Are they, holding your sign for you and taking the pictures at the end and then they're making sure the wires are getting done and is, post-close getting to your clients on time? Are they explaining that portability? Like, the stuff's all super important because it's a reflection of you because you're usually the one that got them to us.
Today, we have a special show today for our listeners. I have an amazing title and escrow company here in Jacksonville. The two partners are both attorneys who come from two different law paths to join together. What I want to focus today is digging into these two very intelligent entrepreneurial women and how they run their business, not only internally, but marketing it as well in this competitive area of title and escrow. Let's find out how they differentiate themselves and really wow the buyers and sellers, typically the last stop in the home buying and selling process. So let's welcome Maria Coutu and Christina Tatum of Atlantic Coast Title and Escrow. I totally apologize that because you know what I said to myself, I was sitting here typing actually to put the little thing on the screen that the listeners, you can see if you're watching Facebook Live right now, you can see that. And I'm going to make sure I spelled your name correctly.
Yeah.
And I said, I got to ask as soon as Maria come in, because I always forget. There's always somebody that hasn't made my
Literally, right when you started, I said he didn't verify my last name.
Exactly.
It's definitely different.
All right, so how do you pronounce it, so everyone?
It's Coutu.
Coutu.
Technically, it's Coutu, but I cannot say that, so I just say Coutu. My father-in-law says
so
Coutu.
Almost like without the O, just
yeah, Coutu.
Coutu.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that an islander name? What is it?
It's French Canadian.
French Canadian. Okay. All right. My first thing with that would be like some Pacific Islander.
Yeah, it's definitely strange.
Yeah. Coutu. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll just call her Maria. But ladies, welcome to the show. And, obviously, real estate agents is 99% of who I have on, but I like to bring on occasionally. We had Kurt Stein on for a little while ago, a few weeks back. But you guys are working with the agents and we're all in the same industry. And a lot of times we're after doing a lot of things similarly, right? And then obviously, you guys come from two different law backgrounds based on what I could tell of what you guys going to say. So I want to, start off the show from, where you from to what you went into the different law practices to now going into title and escrow. So I'm really curious of how you guys did that and obviously how you met and enjoying that. I'm sure the listeners, they give a little background. And then I want to just, turn in and talk about business, how you guys are running your office and what separates Atlantic Coast from the other title companies, because it is very competitive. Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk about some of my pet peeves as a lender towards title companies. I have a very short list of approved title companies in my life. So let's make sure you guys can get on that list. All right. So Maria, let's start off with you. I know you ended up at Western Carolina. Where are you from?
I'm from Murphy, North Carolina, so the mountains of North Carolina. So right above Blue Ridge, as everyone through COVID blew up and went to her vacations.
Yep.
So right over the North Carolina line I'm from. And then I went to Western Carolina for college and was there for, 4 years? And then moved down here for law school. So
you specifically came to Jacksonville to come to Florida Coastal?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. So they offered me the biggest scholarship at the time.
Oh, that wins.
I came down on an April weekend. I pretty much had already committed to a law school in Chicago, and I was dead set. I was dating someone at the time that went to Butler in Indiana, and it was close. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to Chicago. And I came down here on an April weekend, and it was so pretty. And I was like, I don't know. I think I could live in Florida for a little bit. And so ended up making that decision and moving down.
Oh, I can, I did, well, because when I first started my career was with Quicken Loans and I'd follow my now wife to Michigan. And yeah, that's a different cold up there coming off those lakes. Yeah. And it's a different lifestyle. Yeah. So you initially, you went with one of the big law firms or ended up with one of the big law firms here in town. You're welcome to mention them. I won't. If you want to, you can. But into, what's the terminology I want to use, into
civil litigation, personal injury?
Yeah, personal injury, civil litigation. Is that when you went to Western Carolina and I think it was a poli-sci major, right?
Yep.
It was probably, was law eventually always on there, or is that something you decided later?
I've always wanted to be a lawyer from the very beginning. I'm one of 7 kids. So we grew up obviously with not much because there were so many of us. And I always wanted to be something that I knew I'd always be able to provide a nice life for. I didn't know what kind of law I wanted to do. Always was intrigued by the real estate side of law. But when I got into law school, I've had a job my entire life since my entire adult life since I was 15. And so when I started law school, I obviously had to get a job right away. The first firm that hired me was a personal injury firm, and I ended up working for them all through law school. And so that was the experience I had. And so I got a job immediately after I took the bar with the personal injury firm, a smaller one over in San Marco. And then I ended up going over to Fair and Fair, obviously, that everybody knows the signs everywhere. Loved them.
Radio, TV.
Yes. Yeah. The ads are much better. They're on the up and up for sure. But I loved working there, loved the people. I loved Eddie and Chuck. They gave me every opportunity. They supported everything that I needed to move up within their company. It was just that area of law was just a little soul draining for me. Like I just couldn't keep doing it. It was too much. So,
everyone gives it a bad rap, and I think there's two sides to every story. I mean, everybody, if they are, knocked down by somebody, if you want to use that word, or in a car accident, whatever it is, you need to get, brought back whole, right? That's what insurance is for.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I guess really, can it wear you down? Because I think the stereotypical thing is that the lawyers in a lot of the insurance companies are basically a lot of times in bed with each other in the sense of coming to some of these agreements being done, because they try to settle a lot out of court.
You try to settle a lot out of court for sure. So I worked in like the pre-suit where you try to settle a lot out of the court for the first couple of years. I did civil litigation the last few, and the actual litigation where we're actually following the lawsuits and moving forward with it that way. And you're right in a sense, like it is definitely, there are good things and bad things about it, but it is a business at the end of the day. It's a massive business.
Right.
And so, the insurance companies are spending the money just to make things go away, but obviously they're sometimes not doing the right thing. And that's why all these lawyers have jobs, because they're not doing the right thing.
Well, their job is to save themselves money, and your job is to make your customer get whatever that may be.
Yeah, it's super hard, especially when it's on paper, because humans aren't on paper. And so it's just something where you're fighting the same battle every day. And so, now people don't necessarily cry at my closing table. Like say, you're ruining my life or anything like that.
Right.
It's a much better area of law for sure.
Okay. Christina, let's jump over to you, because your LinkedIn was not up to speed, but we're going to get it there.
I'm working on it.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Virginia, moved down to the outer Atlanta area. I was the new girl in middle school, but I graduated high school from a little town called Hiram, right outside Atlanta. And then I went to Georgia State University, transferred over to the University of West Georgia. And then my husband and I came down to Florida, similar to Maria, for me to go to law school in Jacksonville, because
So did you go to Florida Coastal, or where did you go?
I did. They checked me with that scholarship as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is that where did you guys meet there? Is that?
So this summer she moved down. I was going into my third year of law school, and we met before Maria was going into her first. So we were actually friends prior to.
Yeah. So we met through mutual friends like 2 months before school started.
Yep. I actually met Maria the weekend that she met Stephen Coutu, her husband.
Yeah.
He was also an agent.
I was on like a second date with my husband, and we were going to meet some people that he worked with, and they were friends with Christina and her husband.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So I've known them all at the same time I've known my husband.
Summer of 2011.
This is 2000. This is 2011. Okay. So both of you take different paths. Now, you did have a fun fact we were talking about on your bio.
I did.
Yes, you did.
Travel.
Christina lived in Mexico, studied law in France, hiked the Swiss Alps, has backpacked through Europe. Tell us a little bit about that.
I definitely took advantage of my school years. So I lived in Mexico for a summer when I was an undergrad with a family. It was a really, really cool experience. And then when I came into law school the summer after my first year, I spent the summer starting, and it's called, oh my gosh, it just lost me. We were in France. I can't think of the name of the town, but we lived in France. And so every weekend we would fly and hike the Swiss Alps, Italy, just backpacked and stayed in hostels.
Right.
So it's a really cool experience.
I mean, just think of it, I think many of the people might be listening might have kids, but how can someone look that kind of adventure up? I mean, I think the average person, obviously time goes right on by, but I've had a couple people who've had similar type experiences where they've been able to go overseas for a semester or something like that. Where do you find stuff like that?
Just the school. It's just whatever programs they have available. Just take advantage of them for sure. Yeah.
I really regret, unfortunately, is because, well, parents, and then of course, you can get sued for anything. So when I'm old enough to remember in high school where you did like the German exchange. My sister
Mhm.
took advantage of that. I took the basketball team every other year, went over to Europe and played some games and did some homestays and that sort of thing during spring break and stuff. And unfortunately, I think, our world has restricted that. The schools
Right.
aren't so, wanting to be part of that anymore. You got to go outside the school to actually participate in programs, which I think every kid needs to,
Mhm.
every American kid needs to go somewhere else and
Right.
realize what, I think my little personal rant there. So both of you, so your choice of law, what, again, hers kind of came just by, she got hired.
Yeah.
She was just looking for a job and walked into it and let's learn
Mhm.
this part of law. How about yourself?
So I grew up in a first responder family, and I always wanted to be a criminal estate attorney. So I actually went to law school dead set on becoming a state attorney and then flipped through an internship and actually wanted to do criminal defense with juveniles. And so that's what I did. So I started out public defender's office, absolutely loved it. But similar to Maria, I was very passionate and it kind of wore me out because I was so emotionally involved in all of my cases.
Yes.
And it was very, very difficult. And so I ended up leaving that, teaching at the law school. I was a professor there for a little bit and absolutely loved that as well, working with the students. And then I had my first baby and the market took off and Maria said, come on board. And it's been the best decision.
Right,
So
right. You can go home at 5
we
o'clock
are.
most of the time, except for
Yeah.
the last couple of days of the month. Yeah, I can just imagine, I think Kristen Lunsford is involved with the Juvenile Detention
Mhm.
Center. You've probably seen it with the
Yep.
Jacksonville producers. And there's a group of people go down there. I've heard some of the stories out of there. I could just imagine, some of them are just
Mhm.
heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
How do you want to reach out, but then, you'd have to reach out to all of them, right? I mean, how do you just, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right. And it's very benefiting though. I remember I was working on the Christian Fernandez case and he was a 12-year-old accused of murder. And Angela Corey, who was the state attorney at the time, wanted to put him away for life. And Melissa Nelson, who is now the state attorney, who is fabulous. It's just a really tough thing to have to
Yeah.
go through and see these children who weren't necessarily given what we were given in life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
Yeah, their circumstances.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that because I don't know how I got it. So some video popped up on my YouTube link talking about this boot camp down in Miami where they bring in some of these younger
Mhm.
first-time offenders that have done something pretty significant
Right.
and they run them through. It's like there's only a couple left in the country where they do this, but it's like a military boot camp for 18 months or 16
Mhm.
months, I think it goes on. And if they can make it out, they can get their sentence reduced. But they literally are, I want to say, beat on, not physically, but beat on mentally.
Mhm.
And there is a lot of physical running and just physical activity.
Right.
Just really breaking them down
Yeah.
is what their
Giving them
goal is.
structure.
And when you're
and-
talking about that, made me think of that video I was watching. It was interesting. I didn't realize that actually existed. But it does. I wish there was more of it for those. Because I think it would wake them up. Especially it is only for the younger offenders. All right. So we talked about how you meet. So both of you go your separate ways. What gets you, Maria, interested? Because you really started the company in 18, if I saw that correctly. Yep. What gets you interested in title?
So we were on a trip up in New York visiting one of our good friends that we went to law school with. He actually, at the time, had just moved back to New York, but he had been living in Naples for a couple of years and he was doing title. And I was up there just complaining about my job. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And all the things. And he was like, you should go into title in Jacksonville. And I was like, what's title? I had no idea. We'd obviously bought a house, but it was, for some reason, I remember being a mail-away closing. I don't remember why. So couldn't tell you anything about it. And so Christina's husband, Tyler, is a loan officer. And so he was like, yeah, there's a massive gap in our title industry in Jacksonville that is not necessarily connecting the real estate agents to the title. He was like, as you have said, as a lender, you guys sometimes have to ride the waves with some of the title companies in our area. And so I was like, well, let me look into this a little bit. And then just did a bunch of searching. And then I just started spending all my days off, whatever days I had off and my hours at night, just researching it and learning and doing the continuing education, joined all of the groups I could through the Florida bar, found an underwriter. They then, taught me everything that I needed to know when it came to the legality of it all. And then Chris, the person I was just speaking about, he was like, yeah, I'll help you get you going, because he knew a little bit more about it. So he kind of mentored me through at the beginning of it and just sink or swim, quit my job and started it.
So he obviously was gesturing towards what I talk about. There's only, I have more fingers on my hand. There are title companies that I would personally recommend. Yes. And it's that disconnect in the process, and me from my side, is when I have a contract customer who's somewhat excited, they haven't gone through their buyer's remorse yet, and that type of thing. That's still a couple hours away. So my job is obviously get the loan in motion. The faster that I can get your numbers, which now there's technology, but I've been doing this 17 years, or we had to call and get, and now to properly disclose, I want to disclose it's your numbers, because that way they're your numbers. You have to own them. And we're not worried about, making changes, having to redisclose, because Dodd-Frank, the whole process now for us, and disclosures every time something minor even changes. And then, getting them to go in, they only have to e-sign those, but the sense of urgency.
Yes.
And that is the first turn off when I get a contract, is to call a title company, and I even email them over the contract just in case the agent hasn't given it yet. And we're busy. We'll get to it tomorrow. When I know it only takes 10 seconds, because I can tell you there are title companies, literally I've gotten it back in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Where you're just plugging and boom, here's our numbers. This is how we format it. It shoots out.
Yeah.
And it comes over. So that's my little pet peeve there. But I truly believe, you're sitting down. You're the guys that are the last people to, really formally finish everything off. Like you said, you didn't remember really how you closed, right? So how do you make that memorable, that you are memorable?
So that's the biggest thing that Christina and I pride ourselves on.
That's where we shine.
That is where we shine. And that is how we get the agents that close with us. And that's how we keep the agents that close with us. And that's how we keep the lenders that use us as well for whatever business they can get to us, is because our communication is, I don't think anyone else probably matches it. If anyone needs me, they can reach me on my cell phone at any time. They can text me, they can email me. It's probably a little bit of a detriment to my family, but I'm always accessible.
You're still growing. You're still a young family until you get, you got this big staff, and then you have other attorneys that can handle the concept.
Yeah. So that's the thing, though, is that we definitely pride ourselves on, even though we are reachable, we are the only contact the entire transaction. So whether it's a refinance or the purchase, the buyer, seller, lender, agent speaks with us directly. There is no middleman. There's no processor. There's no receptionist. Granted, we have someone that greets you at the door when you come into your closing, but we handle.
What she means is we have those people. We we have those people. All the communication is through us. So that's the difference. Is Tracy, you're sending us a CD asking us for those fees. Like it's me or Christina that are shooting those back over to you. But we obviously have
you slide just a little bit this way. This so you're centered on that camera. Go ahead. That's better. Go ahead.
That way, things are still happening. Back in the day when I was the one that was ordering every single estoppel and shooting every single email and doing, all the surveys and all that kind of stuff. Now we do have that staff that helps us. But the sellers, the buyers, the real estate agents, the lenders, every person's point of contact is still through us.
Right. And we're handling the file. So when they call us with a question, we're able to give them an answer immediately instead of having to call the office and speak to somebody who. Yeah.
Oh, so-and-so's got that file.
Right.
Let me send them to your voicemail. Yeah,
it's not just our name. It's not just our name on the door. Like we're the ones who are actually completing the file.
Yeah.
So your friend told you there's an opportunity there in the gap that's there. Kurt Stein with House Scan, he talked about the same thing, but in home inspections.
Yeah.
The human relationship, and not just throwing this report in front of somebody and saying, hey, this is all things wrong with your house. He's explaining it. Yeah. So obviously the stereotypical, again, I'm going to go to stereotypical so you guys can debunk the stereotypical vision of an attorney is that they oftentimes are not relationable.
They're not involved.
You guys probably know a better word than me.
Yeah.
So when you started, was that, I think your focus that you were going to make this different.
We were going to make it attorneys that are accessible. So that's the thing, is that some people, as you know, don't care if there's an attorney at the closing table. Personally, obviously, we think they should.
Well, Florida doesn't require it.
They don't require it. Exactly. So some people, they do. And so our biggest thing was to say, hey, we're a title company. So we're not just coming at you as a law firm. Some people feel a way about that. But we're attorneys that operate and run this title company. Every single aspect is through us. And so with that, we market ourselves to all of our agents. Like, hey, if you have a legal question, if you have a title question, if you have this person's driving me crazy, can you walk me through this question? Like they're always able to reach us. So that's kind of what makes us a little bit different. And our biggest thing is that we're not charging all of the fees. the law firms that we have noticed tend to do. So we just keep it really simple. And we haven't ever increased our fee. Our closing fee has always been the same since we started in 2018. We have no plans to change that. Our communication has stayed the same. The busier we get, we just add more support staff. And so I don't know if I answered that question.
No, your attitude was so my question that I'm going for the listeners is, did you have to change your attitude's not the right word. Approach. Yeah. To your approach to, you brought up in school, and I imagine a lot of attorneys kind of are, again, lack of better descriptive words, a little dry is the stereotypical, right? But now you guys are going, ooh, here's an opportunity where I can shine with my personality and my law degree.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we do.
Yeah, I feel like there's two different sides to it. So yes, we have to turn on our legal brain, but then we also have to turn on the other side. Whereas I think where we're a little different is that Maria's husband, as we stated, is an agent, a real estate agent, and my husband is a loan officer. So we see how much work goes into it. And we see sometimes a CD has to come in to get balanced at 9 p.m. before 8 a.m. closing the next day.
Yeah.
And we're not going to dictate that and push it. We're going to go ahead and balance it that night and make sure we get the closing package out and everybody wins.
Yeah. Right.
And so I think just knowing that we need to be a team player. And
and as you said in the very beginning, like title is such a competitive industry. There's so many title companies in this area that we are out there and people are meeting us and they're like, hey, these girls are cool. We're not having to deal with all of the hoopla to get in touch with them. We're able just to reach out to them. They're not stuffy. They'll do events with us. They're going to talk to my clients. They relate to my clients. This is great. And so that's something that we try and push a lot, is that we'd like to align ourselves with people that care about the same things that we care about. Because as we've said, we put so much time and energy into these transactions that we want to make sure that it's for people that appreciate it, if that makes sense.
And see the difference.
And that's
compared to other title companies.
Well, that's the seeing the difference. We're going to keep drilling down on the seeing the difference part. I took this quote off. I think this is off your website. A boutique title company, concierge service, personalized attention.
Yeah. So I had an agent text me last week saying, wow, I feel like I'm your only agent. And that's our goal. We want every lender and every agent to feel that way.
Yeah.
Anytime they have a question, anytime they need to reach us. I mean,
it's not lost on us that we would not have any business if they didn't go out and get the business first.
Right.
Like that is it. The lenders went out and got those refis. Those agents went out and got those clients. They got those contracts. Like, it is not lost on us that you're then handing the baby over to us to get it through the finish line.
And we want to make you guys look good.
Yeah.
We're an extension of your team and you trust us with your transaction. So
So let's that kind of brings me into the process. You're coming from, she's coming from the criminal side and doing some teaching. You're coming from the civil side. Yeah. But now title is the operational part, how it flows. Now, obviously, I want to talk about when you first started and how you evolved to where you're at right now. As far, you guys talk about how you guys are point of the sword, so to speak. You're making all the communication with that client. I guarantee there's another title company, wherever they are out in the country, going, oh my God, these two ladies, it's going to be crazy. They're never going to be able to grow, because if they want to be the point of contact, they're just going to be stuck where they're going to hit a lid.
Yeah.
We don't want to be the biggest title company. We just want to be the best.
Yeah. And that's our biggest thing, is that as we have grown, because back when I started this thing as a little baby, it was literally me, and I had a conference room and I had my office, had a little lobby. And so I did everything from start to finish. It was just, I didn't even have an assistant yet.
Well, David started his same way, just like that. If you listen to his podcast, it was just him for like the first year or so before he ever hired
Mine was the first year and a half. And then, so I did everything, and I know I don't want to necessarily do that stuff again. It is tedious and it's a lot, because there's a lot of things that go into these, and making sure everything's done correctly and timely. And then obviously closings get pushed and moved up, and people have lives. And so things happen. But it's going from, doing all of that to adding in support staff and then bringing Christina on. And it's literally just trial and error. Like, we've learned a lot of things. We've succeeded in a lot of things. We've failed in some things, and we've just learned through it all. Like, this last year has been a really big learning experience, just because obviously the market was so great for a couple of years, and then COVID. And so getting back out there to market again last year, like, that was an interesting, just turn, just because it's just, we got to keep up, because its title is so competitive.
I am seeing right now, and actually I started to do a little video yesterday, because I'll invite you guys to the podcast's private page, where I'll share different things that I'm doing or someone's coming on, or if I always like to if there's something I learn about real quick to get it out to my internal peeps, my former guests. But what I wanted to go with that, she's now, I just made myself lose that thought. Sorry about that. Oh, I do that because I'm listening to you and want to get it. Let's go with this question here. And I'll let Christina go with this one. When you're doing title, explain to the audience, because really, the agent is doing one thing. Yeah, they've got a contract, but they don't have to be a lawyer. Obviously, they take up, I don't know, it's like 60 some hour class and some CE credits to get a contract filled out. A mortgage loan officer, little bit more. They got to take probably a little bit more. I don't know if it's more difficult test. Our entry is low, right? But when it comes to title and attorneys, because you guys are actually telling us that the lender title is clear. Right? Now, of course, why you have title insurance as well to back you up, but obviously you don't want to be someone who's claiming title insurance all the time and making those claims. But the weight that's on you in doing a lot of things that Maria was just talking about, doing that back end work, how important it is to have an efficient, competent title attorney.
Yeah. So your question is how we do title in the back end?
Explain the importance of the things that you're doing for someone who I think a lot of people, because you guys, they only see your face a lot of times for the 45 minutes, maybe half an hour sometimes at closing, that they don't realize all the back end stuff that you're doing. So expand on that.
Yeah. So when they get the contract over to us, obviously we look it over. We go ahead and put the title search in, get that back. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is when you purchase a house, you want to make sure there's not an IRS lien or a personal lien or all the things, or there's an issue with the survey that they're going to have to figure out, after closing. And so that's our job, is to make sure that title's clear and that they're not going to have any issues moving forward after closing. So
when it comes to the title insurance, obviously a lot of people are, why do you have title insurance? Well, I'm going to let you guys answer that. Why do you have title insurance?
Title insurance is insurance for your deeds. It's protecting your ownership interest. Yeah. It protects you against third-party claims.
But you said the title was clear.
It is. So there can be, a crazy uncle that comes out of the woodwork that says, hey, I put that fence in that he never paid me 6 months ago, that kind of thing. So it protects you against third-party claims in the future for things that happened in the past that maybe weren't recorded or maybe weren't done correctly, or God forbid got missed in a title search, that kind of stuff. Like we have seen that happen before. So it's just protecting your ownership, right? I mean, this property, you're spending a lot of money.
The lender wants insurance.
Yes.
Because we don't want someone who the uncle or contractor that did work previous, they would actually have technically first spot on the lien.
Yep.
And lenders don't like anybody to be in front of them from that standpoint. The importance of owner's title insurance. I'm sure you're asked this consistently, and I'm sure when you guys go do lunch and learns and train on what you're doing, the importance of the owner actually having a policy, the owner's policy.
I mean, it's just assurance. It's like life insurance. You know what I mean? God forbid something pop up in the future. You just want to make sure that you're covered.
Yeah. And in our, surrounding counties,
Yeah.
sellers
all right. Okay. That's the attorney's answer. Okay. That's your, but facts tell, stories sell, right? Yeah. So tell me a story. You guys, if you take a second, think about it. From a title insurance thing. Yeah. We like to say, but give me a real life story, because I'm sure you guys have been doing it. You've been doing it long enough that something has come back.
No, I don't. I'm gonna knock what? I don't really know.
Yeah. So there was this one situation, but it's fine. It got taken care of. But it was the sprinkle file. Yeah. And so what happened was, back in the day, a mom deeded the property to her 2 sons. The 2 sons passed away. The surviving family of one of the sons wanted to sell the property. It was a FSBO. And come to find out, the family of the other brother had half interest in the property. So they corrected it, new deed, proceeds were sent over, and everything was fine. But because they had the title policy, they were older probably brought in for very experienced attorneys who took care of it, and it didn't cost.
So the title insurance
didn't cost the buyer anything.
Actually helped them, because it takes time and money.
Yes, they handle all of it. Yeah. Yep. Right. So that's a really long story condensed in
a couple seconds. That can happen to anyone. I mean, really.
Oh, absolutely.
And it comes down to it.
And there's so much fraud going on right now.
Yeah, the vacant land fraud is absolutely insane.
Vacant land fraud. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Give us what's going on.
We've had 3 different instances, and with just us specifically handling them. So I can't even imagine how many is actually happening in Jacksonville. But yeah, it's just vacant land. We get the contract. I mean, all 3 times it's been when they've gone out to do the survey, and a neighbor has called the rightful owner and said someone's out there surveying your property. And obviously the owner has found somehow that either called the agent or somehow gotten our information from the surveyor or something and calling us and saying, I'm not selling my property.
Yeah.
Someone's just impersonating them.
So when you guys are doing that title search, that should be popping up. That's Mr. Smith owns it, not Mr. Jones, right?
Well, this person's
They're
telling us they're
impersonating.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a lot of
So-
times it's a mobile signing.
Yeah, they're like,
With
we live in
mobile
New
notary.
York, so you need to send a notary to us. So,
Or we have a notary in our office, just send us the docs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how can someone protect themselves? I mean, because I know I haven't heard it recently, but over the years where they talked about these guys going on and somehow getting in and manipulating the title. Maybe they were talking about exactly what you're doing, but isn't there like a like LifeLock does your credit type thing? Isn't there a policy?
I've heard the ads for it, but we have never gotten any kind of bulletins or anything like that from our underwriters. So I don't really know how those play out. Do you know? I don't know, Christina. Yeah. So, I mean, the only thing I can think of is just be a prudent landowner and just make sure, you have someone always there, like have some kind of sign there like that.
Well, especially if you're not actually living in the property.
All three of them in my instances have all been an elderly person that do not live there. The sales price is usually the kicker. All three of them were lots somewhere at the beach that were selling for under 300. So every time I got one, I was like, how'd they get this deal?
This is a really good price. So that I would have bought that if I knew about it.
Guys, if this deal falls through, I'll call them. But no, that's really the biggest red flag is usually the sales price. That's a little bit less, but it's been a lot. So it's definitely prevalent.
We were just talking to Mike the other day in his office, and he was dealing with, right?
Yeah. His was one of the vacant ones. Yeah. So you're the buyer.
Amazing. And I get, really, I mean, is there any sort of protection or stop point where if you didn't get a call from the real homeowner
that's the thing is if we would have, and rightfully so, if a seller lives out of state, they're like, hey, you need to send a notary to me. They could have a fake driver's license. It then goes obviously on that notary's license.
but I imagine these deals are cash.
Majority of them, I think, have been cash.
Because I imagine, because I mean, the lenders we're doing, of course, obviously we're pulling credit. So some layers of.
So it's not the buyers that are fraudulent. It's the sellers.
Right.
And you guys are just trusting us at that point.
Yes, that's right. I wasn't thinking about that way. So the seller, what's the seller? The only thing you're doing is getting their driver's license when they come to sign their paperwork.
They are. All three of them have been a Zillow lead in some way. So that's one thing I'm telling everybody is obviously these leads, we know these agents are working hard on these leads and it's just kind of hammering them and just trying your best to just feel them out to make sure they're real people, who they say they are, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So now, this is going to a slight tangent, but I had Tracy Hawkins, the safety lady, on a couple months ago. I think it was back in December. And she was talking about, how agents, before they show houses and stuff, they should use Forewarn as one of the products that's out there. There's others. If they were using, because she said even on the sellers, of course, you're thinking, hey, I don't want to go walk into a seller's house, but this is a vacant lot, so you feel safe, right?
Yeah.
I'm in a vacant lot, and there's no way they can, pin me in a corner in a room or something. So you're thinking you're free, but in your case, you're thinking, a couple of these things line up. Underpriced, Zillow, vacant land. You might want to do a little forewarn on that.
Yeah, for sure. Any vacant land that we get from now on is, I want to talk to the son, the mother, the brother. I need multiple forms. And at that point, we'll obviously alert the notary too of any kind of
I wonder
signing.
if these guys are swift enough to actually go in and find the properties that do just have one person versus a family, or maybe obviously you start going into probate, you start digging deeper, maybe someone's passed this.
I've talked to these people on the phone to vet them and ask questions about hey, I need your email so I can send over this, blah, 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 all these things. Answer me. They answer the phone. They say their name. It is.
They're good.
It's good.
Yeah.
So it's scary, but.
Hey folks, this episode was produced by Streamline Media, the #1 media company for helping brands generate content that converts. I knew I wanted to start a podcast to reach more people and bring value to the world, but I did not have the time or the knowledge. Streamline Media became my secret weapon to building my show. They handle all my back-end work, production, and strategies to keep my show going strong. If you're in the real estate business and looking to make content that generates more leads and brings in more revenue, check out the Streamline Media link in the show notes and discover how partnering up can supercharge your path to real estate excellence.
All right. One of the things I like to do with the podcast is inspire. So I want to go with each of you and answer this in your own way. Obviously, Maria, you started the company initially. What were, as an entrepreneur, you're still in the legal field, so you still feel somewhat comfortable because you're still wearing your attorney hat, but something totally different in what you were doing. And obviously, I'm sure there was a lot of, fear, or confidence. The confidence is another word that is often brought up. But what were some of your challenges? Like you said, you worked by yourself for the first year and a half. I mean, tell us about some of the challenges that you had, just getting started and then, getting your name out.
Yeah, that was definitely the hardest part, is just doing that. So I don't have any kind of marketing background, and I'm not the kind of person that just loves to go in a room and talk to the people in the room. So I've got to pump myself
That's what you hired
up.
Christina for.
Yeah, that's literally, I would call it and be like, I need someone to go with me to these things. Which my husband is the people-ist of people.
Yes, he
So
is.
we're the opposite, which makes him successful in his right. So that was the hardest thing, is getting up. And I would just tell myself, I'd be like, okay, if I want something different, I have to go out and do something different. I would literally repeat it to myself, the whole drive over to wherever I was going, just go in, and all I could do is just show people who I was and just tell them what I offer. And, it just got really lucky. All it took was one deal with every single one of our agents. There were a couple of them where, every now and then we'll get some from the buy side. They're like, you guys knocked that out of the park. I'm going to send you my next contract. Or in the beginning, it was just, I just had to cold call people, or I had to lean on whatever contacts that I had.
It's so funny looking back. So I was her biggest cheerleader when she was beginning, and she would send me the logo and be like, what do you think about the logo? What do you think about this? And then I remember when she was starting out, she would spend her Saturdays going to open houses.
Oh, I forgot
just
about
meeting
that.
agents and just walking up and introducing herself. And
They'd all laugh at me.
back then,
They'd be like, sure, huh?
Title?
And
What are
she
you
had-
doing?
Yeah, they'd be like, what are you doing?
yeah, and she had her grand opening party, and I was doing the decor, and I had no idea that one day that I would come over and join her.
Yeah.
But I just remember I was so proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of boots on the ground, but
Well, so you open houses on Saturday, and you started creating opportunities, which was getting out of your comfort zone, it seems like.
So luckily, yes, without a doubt. So that was super tough. Luckily, Christina's husband was a super successful loan officer at the time. So he was able to get me in with some of the agents that he knew. Obviously, all he can do is say, hey, this is Maria. And then I would have to take it from there and actually be like, I can do this.
Right.
So, opening that door and then leaning on contacts that we had, because Tyler and Christina are our best friends. And so we knew them since 2011. So they're friends. We're also our friends. And the majority of them are loan officers too. So really all the loan officers in our friend group are definitely the reason that, catapulted me to being able to even meet people and getting people to give me a little bit of street cred. So they're, give me a couple minutes of their time.
Right.
And then just some of our biggest agents were literally cold calls, just giving them a call and they actually answered, and they either met me for coffee or they just sent me a contract, and they've been with me, for this is our 6th year now. So it just, I just had to put myself out there.
All right, Christina. So you're cheerleading her on. Eventually you get to the point you're busy enough and say, hey, will you come in and join me?
Yep.
All right. So now you're jumping out into the pool of unknown. You're seeing what her doing, so that makes you somewhat comfortable for what you're doing. But what are some of the, in the sense of, you're doing you're teaching mostly at this time. Am I correct? Okay.
Well, we actually had our kids 6 weeks apart. And so I definitely had a longer maternity leave than Maria did. She was basically still working from the hospital room.
30 minutes after I had it. I really did. That's terrible.
And so she reached out. She said, Christine, I'm getting busy. Are you interested? And so I was still on maternity leave. And I said, absolutely. And I feel like it was a very easy transition, just because at that point, like she said, my husband had been in the business for 10 years. And a lot of the agents were family and friends. And I knew a lot of people. And I kind of would hear them. Well, granted, most of them were pretty much already closing with Maria. But it was just a very easy transition. And I was already in the real estate world. I feel like every day through him and through Maria that it was fun to jump on board.
All right. So we're mid 2019-ish area. Is that somewhere
I guess
2019 sometime?
Yeah.
All right. So you're working through this process. She comes on. Now you got 2 of you in the office. Because I feel entrepreneurs and haven't been out there. Well, the loan officer is an entrepreneur too. So it doesn't, we're out there trying to make relationships,
Mhm.
trying different new things and so forth. What are some of your growing pains? What are some of the, some of the marketing things that you're doing? I mean, the open houses, do you start to see fruit from that? Or some of the, was cold calling better? What?
We didn't have
Yeah.
to do anything in the beginning just because the market took off with
When Christina came
So
on,
just a
I was
supply and demand.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we were,
I was very
Mhm.
luckily, in 2018, I had, I was hitting the ground, feet on the ground, but then I luckily took off pretty quick. We were really top 3 of our underwriter in the state of Florida for the last 4 years. So, 2019 it was really 2019.
Yeah.
I had my
Oh my God.
October of 2019.
Yeah.
So really it was 2019 and 2020. Obviously interest rates happen to everybody.
Mhm.
And so I just took off, and so Christina came in and it was like, I need help. And
I
so
feel
I
like-
was teaching her at night when I
Yeah.
had time. Like it was just.
I feel like we work really well together though, because
Yeah.
Maria's definitely like the man in the relationship. And so, what works well for us is when we first got started, like I love doing closings. I love meeting people. And so Maria was kind of just the boss man, like keeping things running. And I was
She
getting
sits
those
in the
5-star
closing room
reviews in
all
the
day.
closing. So
Yeah.
until, of course, things started to slow down a little bit. And now we kind of have our agents that we work with, but it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were lucky enough to a wave came and forced
Yeah.
you at a high volume, because obviously when it's to get started and you're not doing the volume, you don't make enough mistakes to move forward, right?
Mhm.
You're learning, but you don't know. But I think we all agree failing forward is the greatest learning process.
Yeah. We failed a lot for sure.
Yeah, or just you're able to go to a closing. You have enough closings through the day that 9 o'clock you're like, for some reason I didn't really click with those people. I need to go. I need to come in with a different attitude. And all of a sudden you're back in the next room and you're closing, and now you do it a little differently and you learn how to do it a little better, right?
Yeah.
How
Oh,
to-
yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously the docs are the same pretty much across the board.
Right.
So within reason. So the closing itself is just figuring out the personality of some people. And as we all know, some people just refuse to give in. Just smile every now and then.
I mean, but
Christina can usually get them.
I'm going to get it.
I'll be about 20% in. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to rush through this pretty quick.
Having been to a number of closings, yeah. So one of my pet peeves of being with some of the ones I would not, I don't even remember their names.
Mhm.
A lot of them are law firms who are
Mhm.
trying to do closings, but they're doing all these other things.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the attorney shows up to sign the paperwork and he doesn't even really know what he does.
Yeah.
He's,
Yeah.
he's practically reading it versus, go down, brag about action title. He's one of the ones, if you want to mirror somebody, I mean, he knows in and out, right? We know some other title companies and they're sitting there and going that flow. So you like doing the closings. When you're going in there, what is your mindset and goal? Obviously, to sign the paperwork, that's the obvious, but to make yourselves different, because I really think that's where I suggest the real estate agents go. Who's going to give you that closing that's going to be memorable?
I think the easy part, though, for us is that we're the ones who handle the file. So we know that CD inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a question about escrow, if they have a question about homeowners insurance, we're the ones literally sealing the envelope and mailing out the check.
Right.
Yeah.
So any questions they have, I mean, like I said, we're the ones who handle the transaction, not the
Yeah.
processor. So we're able to answer those on the spot for them. But not only that, like closings can be fun. They don't have to be stuffy, even though we're attorneys.
Right.
So it's just making sure that once they get done with the closing, that everything is super understandable, that they understand kind of where to go from there. We explain homestead in great detail. We explain portability, which I feel like a lot of title companies don't.
Yeah.
And that's a huge kind of benefit for these homeowners who are selling a home and then can get that savings on the tax
Yes.
end in the future.
But just personality wise, I mean, what do you try to get them to laugh? What is your?
I mean, I think you need to know your audience. In
Yeah.
the beginning, Maria would make fun of me because I would look up the sellers. I want to know who they are.
Because on Facebook, I'm like,
Because depending on who they are, I'm going to kind of mirror that. You know what I mean? It's sales tactic 101. And so, and we do closings with a lot
Yeah.
of really cool people.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm sitting down with the CEO of Fanatics, like I'm going to be talking about sports. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's just being super relatable while also breaking down the docs to where everything they're signing, we're telling them what they're signing. We're not just kind of pushing a paper across and asking
Yeah.
for their signature.
Right.
and it's leading into it that I feel like makes our closings really good is we don't like to say no. Obviously, if there's
Yeah.
something on title we need to say no to, that's happening. But whatever those people need, like that's where the ease comes into it is, hey, we need to pick up our we have a newborn.
Yeah.
We only have 1 hour a day that he's awake. Can we come at that time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Saying yes to that. Like our office is a really cool office. We
Yeah.
love our office. You know, we always have music. We're just always vibing, I would say. But it's just, I don't know. We're just not stuffy. We're fun. Everything leading up to it, hopefully, has been easy to them, other than, as we know, the mortgage process can be stressful for a lot of people. So we try to just get it to the point and be like, all right, we're going to knock out these 500 pages real fast and just kind of take it not as serious with them.
Maria raised a good point as far as making it as easy as possible. So with our sellers, of course, with lenders, we can't do it, or with our buyers. But with sellers, they have a newborn. Newborns don't like to travel in car seats. They're screaming. It's stressful for the parents. We'll actually sign them online, and we don't charge them for this. So they're able to sign with us from the comfort of their home. And we do this a lot with our military sellers or out-of-state sellers. So it's just a really cool.
Yeah, we do everything in-house. So a lot of that we've learned, because as we've said, we got a loan officer and a real estate agent as spouses. So we see what all the other title companies are doing in some way, sometimes.
It's our goal to beat them.
Yeah. So we were finding out anything. What are they doing over there? Send that over. But our biggest thing is we do it all. So when it comes to like the remote online closings, we found out like almost every title company farms them out. And I'm like, why it takes
Which
10
is
minutes?
crazy. Like, why
So
would I want
we
a
do
stranger dealing with my sellers?
And why
Like,
do
I
that?
don't trust them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So we do all that ourselves.
Oh, they're not spending the time. I mean, they don't know anything about the file.
Yeah.
Should
Yeah.
something go awry?
Like, I want
Yeah.
them looking at my face when we're
Yeah.
signing the docs online.
And our office is at the beach. We understand that some people, the beach is like a foreign country. So if they're over here and they're like, we can't come to the beach, we'll send a notary out to them. Like we make it easy. Like it doesn't have to be hard. And that's what also makes our real estate agents happy, is when their clients are happy. It goes back to the fact that this is their deal. We're helping them close it.
Well, I mean, it takes a lot of stress off the agent. I was listening to one of my podcasts. I think it was Miranda, came out yesterday. So I always listen to the full show on riding the car, and just talking about again, the being accessible, being when they call. That's we put that out there. I put that out there. Because if they're calling you at 7:30 at night, there's a reason, and they're stressing out. And now, hopefully, as they get more mature as a real estate agent, they learn how to handle those things and call us at 8 o'clock the next morning. Hopefully,
yes.
I don't know if but there's always a new one coming in the pipipeline. So, but anyway, but we're there for that.
We all started at some point, so we get it.
But the more pressure you can take off of them, they worked really hard. They want to get this to closing, and they know that's payday.
Yeah.
And if it gets pushed out a day, then whatever. But if obviously you're making it convenient for them by going to the customer and getting it closed on time in the customer's home where it's more comfortable for them. They're already comfortable because they're in their own house, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We have one agent that pretty much only does business in Green Cove Springs. I don't think I've ever met one of the sellers, because every single one is either, remote online notarization, or we have someone go out to them. And so it's, again, that's our job, is just to kind of make it easy for them. But I was just going to go somewhere with that, and I forget where I was going.
Green Cove? You're going to need to open an office in Green Cove in the next decade, I can guarantee.
I know. And we've toyed, and our thing is making it easy. Like we've learned, as we've been talking about this whole time, is trial and error. We've learned so much in the last 6 years that, everything that we're doing now is so tech friendly. Like all of our buyer and seller forms are all like a digital form that they fill out, like secure forms that we're paying, companies to do all their technology stuff so that everything stays secure and private. And, all emails, everything is just super easy. All communication with us is easy. The closings are super fast. We have the binder that people can do online now that pretty much everybody's doing now, I think. Just so many things to where it's just...
We just don't say no to anything. I mean, I think the biggest compliment is we still have lenders and agents reaching out to us because they're having to close with another title company because they're on the buyer side or whatever it may be. And they're saying they won't draft a POA for us. So we're drafting it, not getting paid for it, just because we want our agents to be successful and our lenders. Right. Or like my husband had one the other day where the title company refused to set up the mobile signing. They said, we don't do this. The buyer has to figure this out on their own. So like we helped them just because.
And that's something that we learned trial and errors, because I used to do that back in the day. I was like, you just need to find a notary, blah, blah, blah. Let me know when you get them. But I learned very quickly that by not having a notary service, that I'm using a nationwide one, docs are getting messed up. I'm not getting docs back. So we learned that through trial and error. Like, so we handle all of that stuff.
No, I mean, obviously the first 12 years I was in the business was call center all over the nation. One time I was licensed as many as 21 states.
Oh, wow.
And Quicken, they talked about them running down to the Detroit airport with all the FedEx packages and literally sometimes throwing over the fence to the guys to get them on the plane that was going out that night to go. From the technology standpoint, how do you guys, because I imagine just like lenders or the real estate agents, there's a lot of shiny things out there they want to throw at you, do your job a little easier and so forth. But also, like I said, the mobile notary thing, the technology over the last whatever amount of years is getting better and better every day. States are changing some of their laws and so forth on that. How do you guys stay in front of that? Are there title company conferences? Is there a journal you read to kind of, get some of this insight? Because I can't believe it all comes to your husbands.
No, it comes from our husbands. Giving us a little bit of credit. We haven't too much today. We're the ones with the boots on the ground down here.
We're just learning what other title companies are doing in other places.
Honestly, our real estate agents, we're not just saying that, like they really are our family. Like two of our best things that we got are from one of our real estate agents calling me and saying, hey, this blah, blah, blah is doing this and sending me a link. And I'm like, okay. We're signed up to do it the next day.
We're not going to be outperformed.
Yeah. And if it's just something that we don't know, then we figure it out. But our underwriter's amazing. We work with Old Republic and they send us information. Old Republic only works with attorneys. So that's why it's not a super common underwriter.
Old Republic is the insurance.
Our underwriter for our
insurance company. So I imagine their added value to you is to keep you guys up to speed.
Exactly. Yeah. So they'll send us out stuff every now and then that other people are doing, but they do a lot of business in South Florida. And as we know, that's a whole different beast. So they do give us some information, but really it's just our agents being like, hey, I just saw this. This was kind of cool. We should look into it and we'll kind of do it. But everyone in the circle is pretty much all doing the same thing. Yeah. The biggest thing that makes us different than everybody is just the personal touch, the concierge touch. And that's why we put it all over all of our stuff is because if they need us, they can get us.
Are you finding you're going out to these socials or you meet a new agent, are you finding a lot of them open for suggestion to give you guys
You mean like open for a new title?
Mm-hmm. I think it depends who the person is.
Yeah.
Some people have really lasting relationships with title companies and we respect. Yeah. I mean, that's what we want to build.
Yeah. My personal opinion on that matter is every now and then I'll have people be like, how can I refer people to you? And it's the biggest thing is there has to be that personal connection with the real estate agent. It's very, very rare. It has happened where someone has just sent me a contract that said, hey, I saw your name.
It's totally out of the blue.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
your website looked cool. Like, it sent me a contract. I mean, this probably happened twice. Like, hardly ever. It usually is, hey, real estate agent Christina Tatum told me you were great, so I'm going to send this over. Can we go get coffee? To me, there always has to be that human connection with title, just because it goes back to this is their baby. This agent, it might be the first deal they've closed in 6 months. So, like, it's a really, really, really big deal to them.
And I think if they just close one with us, then that's all it takes.
Yeah.
They immediately see the difference.
Yeah. And so the biggest thing for us is just that it's all a team. Like, if they're not successful, we're not successful. Same. Like, we're just trying to add to their team. Like, they just need to look at us as a team member with them. And that is how we treat them as well.
All right. So from a marketing standpoint, who makes the marketing decisions? Are you guys jointly doing that, or
Christina's our creative director?
No. So
she's good at Canva.
We have a company out of Charleston who does our marketing, but we need to get better at putting more out there.
Yeah, I had a website that I started back obviously in the day, and it was fine. Did its job. And
I liked your website.
So this is a new one. So we hired this company to redo. I love our website now, but the one that we had before it was okay. And I had a buyer that hired an attorney out of South Florida who was grinding my gears. And so I was like, I got to see what this guy looks like. And I looked him up and his website was amazing. And I was like, who made this website? And so that's where I got the information. And we found them. They're out of Charleston. We actually ended up having mutual friends. It was kind of crazy. But
they only do marketing for attorneys.
They only do marketing for attorneys. Yeah. So they did our website and they manage all of our social. So as we all know, we're in such a social heavy community. So we'll post when we can, but they just keep those, the routine posts going out just to kind of keep us in people's feed and stuff. But that is one thing that, because we are the one in communication with everyone, and that's not something we have that much time to do.
And I feel like we'll constantly have little tips. We're like, oh, this just happened. We need to remind our agents about this. Yeah. So we really need to get better about hopping on and not caring about if it's a perfect reel, just getting the information there.
Yeah. 100. Well, the stereotypical things. Oh, they expect you to spend the money on the perfect reel, right? Some people don't, versus getting it out there. I can imagine some people having that stigma, but I don't think I work with all these agents too. They just want the information,
Right?
And they really love it if it comes directly from you.
Yeah.
Else.
Yeah.
We've done pretty good in the last year or so. For our events, we like to shower our agents with attention and love.
We love to throw them parties.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Yeah. So how you have the formal marketing,
Yes.
the website and so forth, versus your, if we want to call it more like informal, the events. Where's your focus and goals there?
One of my favorite events that we did, it was not about us. It was all about them and just helping them get the business. Because as Maurice stated, without them, we're nothing. And so we got each of their logos and we got a bunch of swag and
marketing materials like mailers, door hangers, like water bottle things,
personalized tissue papers when they put gifts together. It was all about just setting them up for success because
so it was just something that was like, hey, we have an open bar, we have good food, come, and then we have swag bags for you to stack full of
which are personalized swag bags
with
to
their
logo. With our marketing, it's with their logo.
Yeah, that's something that we've asked them, and a lot of the realtors struggle with the marketing stuff and like knowing which works and like, oh, do I need to spend $200 on this? Like, is it worth it? And like, okay, let us spend the $200.
Yeah,
mail them out to 50 people. Put your card in. That's all you got to do. We already had stamps on everything. I mean, literally, just go. And so that was something we did last spring.
They really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Yeah. One of our events, we did a bingo fundraiser for Mayport Elementary. We just wanted to do something different because all of our people have the education coming at them from their broker, from different title companies. Everyone's bouncing.
The lenders were
the lenders.
People that aren't even really qualified to do it. But anyway.
Yeah.
Our Christmas party is probably
our Christmas party is our biggest event of the year every year. So.
Well, of all that type of stuff, where do you feel is the best return on investment for you? I mean, is it a Christmas party, or is it more of the more intimate setting with just a handful of agents, doing the nice swag bags for them with their own marketing materials?
I don't know. Everyone always tells us.
We did have a good event in all of them last year.
Thoroughly enjoy our Christmas party.
Yeah. So we do Santa. We have Santa come in. We rent out the whole Coutu, the whole restaurant on like for a brunch. We've done it 2 years now.
And we hire a professional photographer. And so they're able to get their kids photos with Santa, professional photos, so that they can use it for their Christmas cards if they want.
100%.
But then we have an open bar, food. It's just a really good time.
Right there in Atlantic Beach.
No,
I mean, there's one agent that I know, Kelly Bello with Keller Williams. She does, at least she did before I had her on the show. That was her thing. She invited all her past clients, had the place so they could get all their Christmas cards. And then you could actually, I don't even know if she was doing it, but I was like, so could they actually right there at your place, like go ahead and order them and be done when they left and went home?
They came in like within a week. So then we would just send it to them because some people don't need the cards.
Oh, so you're actually having them printed for them?
No.
So we send them their digital photos so that they can just, create their
own
Christmas cards. But
it's just for like a social post or something. But
but because a lot of our agents don't have kids and they still come just because it's so much fun.
Yeah. But to answer your question, I mean, we really do see a big return in all of them. Bingo was fun. That was our first one. We didn't see a huge return with that, but we were able to donate. But it was for a good cause. Yeah.
So
we just wanted to do something different. We're like, let's do something fun where it's not like us to spark and title down someone.
Are you doing something different for the agents who you've been working with for 3 or 4 years, 5 years versus the new ones?
So
do you do?
We probably put swag aside when the sizes come in. Text them like, hey,
we were having a really good year, 2021, right? We would get them like you got Joey, a Jags jersey because he's a huge Jags fan, even though we didn't realize it was.
Yes. Oh, he's superstitious.
Yeah, superstitious.
And then it was Trevor Lawrence's first year and he did great. I was like, oh, is it the jersey?
It was
well, so many of the Jags are gone after their first contract, so it's hard to.
But no,
hopefully that'll change.
Yeah, we definitely used to. I know one year we sent Mother's Day flowers to all the moms that we had. We did Father's Day gifts that year too. Just depends on the quarter, how busy we are, and whatever. But if it's a birthday present, like if we randomly say, hey, it's so and so's birthday next week, if we see it, we'll try and do something.
All right. So here's a thought that came to my mind, but it's been there before. I see, because I'm watching what my other mortgage loan officers are doing as far as marketing. And of course, more of the females are on social media, I think, than the males in all respect, even real estate. Unless you're Josh Rogers. If you take Josh Rogers out of doing all his videos, the males go, down quite a bit. But from a female standpoint, do you find are you bonding more with the females and doing the more social thing versus the male real estate agents? Do you guys even think about that? Is it because one of the groups is there is a huge, unfortunately, divorce is roughly 50%. There's a lot of single moms out there. They like to bond together.
Mhm.
That is a strong thing that I see in the groups the agents that I see. Are you seeing it when you have these socials? More often you're getting the women showing up than the guys because you are ladies? Or does that even
I will say
thought?
this. We're so close with our agents that their families
Yeah.
we're also close with.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we know when we send out Christmas invites, I'm not just going to send it to Jason Brown. I'm also going to send it to Stacey Brown to
Right.
make sure.
Right.
So
they get
you
the
know,
right
Right.
Not that I don't trust men to look at their emails, but
Yeah, not really. I feel like it's we do have a couple that are husband and wife teams, and usually the wife will come to the event just because the husband doesn't really like to do too many events, that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
I don't fault them for that. If anything, it's just something for us to be letting them know that we're appreciating them. And,
Yeah.
but no, I don't notice it too much. I mean, we have had some agents every now and then that'll make a comment like, do you guys want to go play golf? And I'm like, no, but I'll pay for your round of golf. That's what you want. Just send me the invoice.
I refuse to sponsor golf tournament. Every time if I go to a golf tournament, it's because I'm bringing an agent. I'm going to spend the 4 hours with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I used
But
to do, back in the day, I used to do all the golf tournaments. Like, oh, those were such a thing too.
They can be a
Setting
drag
up
out when
those
they go 5 or
tents.
6 hours and stuff.
Yes. TSD.
Oh, actually, one of the questions in here we've been talking about, what strategies does your company use to build and maintain positive relationships? I think we've been talking about that. This is some of the Chat GPT questions. We talked about the technology change a little bit. Can you describe a particular complex real estate transaction your company has handled? And how are you able to navigate to a successful conclusion?
We close people in Japan all the time. That's a
Yeah.
pretty hard one.
complicated.
Some complicated ones. I'm trying to think about them. Probate, obviously. Anything with probate is always tricky.
But I feel like
We've
that's
had people die.
that's what
We've
we're
had a
good.
lot of things.
Yeah, we've had people get married on
The
the way to
day-
the closing.
They
the,
went to our house.
agent didn't know, the lender didn't know. I'm like, oh man. But no, I think that's what we're really good at is still simplifying it and not
Yeah.
making it difficult.
And we get the information from them right off the bat.
Yeah.
And again, it's coming right to us.
Right.
So it's not as if it's going to my processor and she
It
didn't
might get
tell me
stuck on the
that-
desk for a couple days.
Yeah, like didn't tell me that we had the buyer's trying to do a POA, but it's a VA and they're not legally married, so they're not going to let them do it until the day before. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
like we usually
yeah.
get ahead of the stuff pretty
Mhm.
early, but we've seen all the things.
like HOAs can be fun sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they need a resod or Yeah.
I had, because previous to coming here to Loan Depot, I was with the builder's lender, and that was one, of course they were building the house, so it's going to be, 10 months or whatever.
Mhm.
And I said to him, yeah, we can do this if you're married. And he had a girlfriend, and they're like, can you guys get married before closing? Like, yeah, okay, I'll pre-approve you.
Oh, I've had that happen too. I've
Yeah.
had that happen where I didn't ask any questions, but they were like, we're going to go get. I was like, okay.
Have you had a situation where a seller is you get to that 11th hour and not wanted to proceed?
We have had that happen a couple times, and both times the buyer didn't pursue anything. I think both of my instances. I don't know if I think you maybe had one.
I mean, I've had situations to where it's a couple getting a divorce and they're kind of fighting over proceeds, things like that, which you want to kind of tackle ahead. But I don't think I've ever had one where the seller
Both of
is.
mine where the seller ponied up all the money they'd spent on the inspection and appraisal and stuff, and so the buyer went down, was fine with it.
Mhm.
But I've helped my agents that are closing with other title companies walk through that and get them to different people that can help represent. But yeah, that's never fun when the sellers do that.
Something that I haven't had it recently, but obviously when I was in the call center, I did a lot more volume. And so you come across the divorce situations, not divorced yet type of thing, or you get that situation where now divorced couple, but they're still on the loan.
Yeah.
Attorney, for whatever reason, allowed the spouse who wasn't getting the house to still quit claim the deed without having the other spouse refinance it out of the other spouse's
We
name.
deal with that all the time.
Yeah, obviously you guys didn't deal in the divorce world, but to me, I was like, that is really poor legal advice, in my opinion.
So I think what happens is once they sign that divorce decree, everyone's like, done, I'm peacing
Yeah.
out. And so
Yeah.
those couple of things that have to happen after the fact sometimes don't happen. I just had it happen last week where the family law attorney had the quitclaim deed, but didn't know they had to report it. In their defense, they don't do this. So, it was fine. I got it recorded right
Right.
away, but she's had it for 2 years.
Mhm.
So luckily it wasn't that big of a deal. But I mean, we've had it before where we've had to do skip traces on spouses, estranged spouses. Because they
Sometimes
gotta
we've
Oh,
had to play
sign.
yeah.
detective. And so
Yeah. We found one. Remember
we
that
were
one
tracking a
person?
guy in Virginia Beach. Yeah, we
We
finally
found-
found him, got the deed to him, got a signature on it, thank God, and saved the deal.
Yeah.
But nobody had his contact information. Nobody knew where he was.
I've had that situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, where people kind of, okay, where's the spouse? I don't know. I haven't talked to him.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
was. I had one with one of our top agents, and I literally had to pay a private investigator to find the spouse, and they found her,
Yeah.
and she signed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What would happen if you could, I mean, literally, if they could not find that other spouse and without a death certificate or anything like that, what can you do?
There's really nothing you can do because you're not allowed to legally alienate anyone's homestead interest at all. Like even if you have a prenup, there's no way to get around it. So
Mhm.
if they were married and they lived in that house and it was homesteaded, they have to sign unless they are declared dead.
Interesting.
There may be some family law loopholes to that
Ah.
I'm not aware of, but that is from my understanding
If
how.
they can exhaust some sort of investigation that shows that this person's not on the earth anymore that they know of.
Yeah, it's a conversation we have to have all the time because people will be like, "Well, I'm on the mortgage," and I'm like, "That's great, but you're both on the deed or you're married. The
Mhm.
second
Yeah.
you got married and you guys both moved into that house, it's theirs."
How
So it's tough.
is it right when we say a couple gets married that the one spouse already owns a home? As soon as they actually do get married, they're now technically, even though they might not formally be on title, but because they're now husband and wife, that property that was formerly owned, that they probably now live in most cases,
If it's their primary.
If
it's
it's
their primary
homestead.
residence.
If it's an
Yeah.
investment, that's the
The
case.
investment's
Yeah.
not the case.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it just depends on what their actual occupancy is on the home.
Mhm. So, because I imagine you probably run across that sometimes. You do the title search and the spouse is not on there because they got married after that, but now they're getting divorced and they still own that house.
We have to ask those
Yes.
questions.
Yeah, and go
And-
through to find out that they actually got married somewhere in
And
between.
we got it. We have to go through all the anger. I'm like, sorry, we got to call Betty and she's
Yeah.
got to
Right.
sign it. And she's like, she's not signing anything. I'm like, she has to sign it.
This is one I get often is the parents wanting to put their kids on the title
Do you want to answer that one?
versus doing the legal trust or whatever. I'm sure you guys you'll go through the legal jargon with me. What is the actual proper way they should do that if they want their kid to?
Do you mean if they're 18 and they're living in the property? Let's say they're in college and they're buying.
Well,
a lot of questions.
Well,
for that.
most
lot
of
of
the
questions.
parents are older, right? The parents are older, so the kid's probably not in college. They're probably your guys' age, and they're putting them on there, not realizing. I say, okay, you realize you're putting that person on there. They're not contributing to the house in any way, shape, or
so
form.
they're a minor.
You're on you're
No.
putting a title. If that person now gets married, right, and now really can cause
No,
a
it's
whole.
never going to be the kid's primary residence unless they're living there. You can be an owner.
So the parents are primary.
Yeah.
They add the kid to the title. Kid lives wherever.
Hmm.
Right? Kid gets married, spouse would not have claim to the.
Not necessarily unless we're going through like an inheritance and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So that make it a little tricky there. And that's a different ballgame, different attorney. But when it comes to whenever a parent asks me that, I always tell them we just need to do a life estate deed. And that's where when they pass, it goes to the child that while they're living, it's fully their home.
Because
Right.
if they refi, we don't want to have to deal with getting the child to
Yeah.
have to send the
100%.
docs.
So that's
and
where
Yeah.
I usually talk about
Yeah.
it. I'm like, do you want your son or daughter to have to give you an agreement on anything you do on this property? And they're like, no. And I'm like, one, you just need to probably just go get a
Mhm.
trust done if you want to just keep it that way. That helps it out a lot. Or just do a life estate deed. The problem with the life estate deed is, as you know, the lenders, underwriters don't typically like them too much. So usually we have to quit claim
I
out
don't
of
think
it.
I've ever come across one, at least the one that they brought to my attention.
Got
They may
it.
have handled it in the back,
Yeah,
and
sometimes the lenders will be okay with them, but usually the lender, same as in a trust, they'll usually make us quit claim out and then quit claim back in to
Mhm.
close the refi, which happens. But that's the only thing I ever say. I'm like, if you know you're not refinancing ever and you just want to make sure that they don't have to go through probate, then the life estate deed's easy.
I never say never, right? That's
Yeah.
Murphy's law.
I know. These interest rates might get down to
gonna
2.5 again.
But sometimes it's smart. Sometimes they add, like I said, like we've dealt with a lot in Gainesville with the University of Florida. They'll buy like a condo for their kid to live in while they're in college, good investment property,
Mhm.
and they put them on the deed so that they can homestead and save money on the tax
Yeah.
side of it so that they still have the primary residence. They're saving taxes on that one, and then their child able to homestead the property that they're living in their college town.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that because it was they got rid of it years ago where they would allow. I think when I first started in 2005, I don't know how they changed it where they were allowing parents to do that, but from a Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac kind of cracked down on that, them buying basically getting primary residence status on a really, your kid's primary, not your primary, type of thing.
Yes.
They started to crack down on that.
Yeah, we dealt with it a lot in interest rates. What was market rate? 21? When, everyone needed to put those cash offers in. We dealt with that a lot because the parents were buying the house and then the kids were refinancing it afterwards. So that was really, really big in 2021. I definitely haven't had a situation in about a year on it though, but it was really big because then people wanted to refinance and get taken off for tax reasons and all that stuff. But
so the agents that are listening here at this point, you've got to, sometimes you'll run across these, I don't want to say they're being difficult, but they're not really thinking through these buyers and sellers, putting kids on, not putting kids on, that sort of thing, to take 5 minutes and give you guys a call and let you guys explain. You can do it, but
yes,
these are things that can happen.
They need to talk to us and they need to talk to a loan officer because while they're wanting to help out their son by putting him on that, that deed, when that son goes to buy a house in 5 years, he's got to deal with that when it comes to his debt to income and all that kind of stuff, even though, his name might be on the mortgage or all those things. So while we can go through the legalities of it, they obviously want to make sure they're fully informed on how it could affect their kid and them. Right. Because if they have to sell, obviously when people get older in age, we got to deal with Medicare, money in their account. There's all these factors.
Also affects their student loans too, which a lot of people don't realize.
Oh,
there's lots of questions.
Lots of questions. But
avoid it if you can.
But just the point, the agents that are listening out there, don't think you're going to lose the deal by going to these ladies for a little, education on that, because what the worst thing can happen is they do get so many years down the road and something does happen. And because they made that decision uninformed, now it's caused angst and they're not going to call you back. Yeah. Because even though you as a real estate agent were not involved, you were part of the deal. And they're going to save face knowing that, they made a mistake and you didn't educate them. They're not going to go back to you and say, hey, you didn't tell us about that. Can you tell us about it now? Yeah. It's too late. Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that just triggered in my mind. One thing that we always have to point out to our agents too is when one of their buyers is buying a house that's been homesteaded for a long time.
Oh, yes.
Increase, like that's something that I personally, I'm sure Christina does it too, is I always call my agent first. And I'm like, hey, their taxes triple next year, just so you know, so that they can go ahead and have that conversation. Because the first phone call they're making in the next year is the agent. Yeah. Then they're going to say, call you.
Yeah.
And then they're going to call us. And the lender's going to be like, well, why do you fill out this escrow sheet this way? And I'm like, well, we can't, blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's funny. So yesterday, the St. John's board had Facebook Live, had Eddie Creamer on talking about just this thing. Yeah. And that he literally had someone's taxes went up like $3,000. He said $3,000 a month. And then they came to a point like, oh, of course, some of the buyers or borrowers are going, well, I just won't escrow. Well, it doesn't mean you stop paying your taxes, whether we're collecting them or not. We're just collecting them on a monthly basis for you. But yeah, this whole thing, because if the other thing was, if they bought a home as a second home, there's a 10% cap. But if that value's gone up so great, and now they want to come down and homestead it. He said he had a number of cases where he basically explained to him and said, hey, if you homestead this,
we're reassessing.
It's going to go through the roof. You're better off just, in taking the 10% cap right now, or you're going to get a real sticker shock when those taxes come in.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. That's something that we see a lot of, and that's something that I always try to provide value to my agents just to help them look better. It doesn't always have to come from me.
Well, so what is the signal for that? Just someone who's been in the home a long time? Is that the first thing you will?
Sometimes we won't notice it. I mean, I'll notice if the lender notices it, sometimes that happens. Sometimes the lender will, them themselves will be looking at the tax bills.
It's really low for the region.
Yeah. Or I'll be doing the seller docs and I'm like, how is this house at the beach only $2,300 a year? That kind of thing. And I'll notice it and I'll be like,
from the deed. Man. I mean, if they purchased the property in the 90s or so that's, even 6-7 years ago, you could see a big increase.
And we've had the instances where we've asked the lender and the buyer, like, hey, do you guys want us to do a high escrow for you so that you don't take the hit later, or do you want to keep your payment low and just know you're going to have that escrow deficit? Because as you know, you guys can do that and we can do that. Yeah. So that's another thing that we try to do, obviously, when it's noticed. That way it just helps people, especially the first time home buyers. It happened to me. I didn't think homestead was that big of a deal. But we bought a house back in 2015 and we were young, didn't know. And I didn't do it.
Well, I've done a lot of new construction over a good bit of the last 3 years, and obviously what we're estimating those taxes were based off the purchase price. Some of these people were closing and the values were coming in $80,000, $100,000 higher, and so our estimates are off. Eddie made some comment about the lenders. Oh, we think some of the lenders are trying to do it to get you. No, trust me, it's not worth the risk, that one deal to approve somebody and then have that house come back. That's not good for the lender. It's like a title insurance policy. You claim too many title insurance policies. You're gonna be like, are you doing your job? You know? Yeah.
It's messy.
Ladies, do you have anything you want to add here? I think, anything I did not ask, that stories that we want to.
I don't think so. I mean, the biggest thing that I feel like Christina and I both like to get across to people is just that while we may be small, we are very mighty. We do we just last year, I think we're the first title company in our underwriter's history to close this much premium, like in the short amount of time ever. So like we're breaking records like with our underwriter, which has been amazing.
Which is handling Old Republic. It's Old
we
Republic.
only use
Old Republic is handling all the whole state of Florida. And probably beyond.
Well, we only close in the state of Florida. So based on their Florida numbers.
Yeah.
So just, we're super proud of how far we've come and that kind of thing, but we're still very much the same people that we were in 2018 and 2019. We're still accessible. I'm still down in the trenches with these agents. Well, closed.
I mean, I think you guys fully understand. Like I said, I revert back to Kurt because he got into home. How did you get into home inspection? Well, he said he had family that were all in real estate, and they were talking about the horrors of, these home inspectors not being able to be, people friendly, basically, and explain that thing. And I think the title is the same way. You can find a lot of people to do the title great, but really you want to bring that customer to those, not only are doing the title work efficiently, but also are welcoming your customers in. This is a very stressful time. It's, it's exciting, but stressful, and to come in and get Christina to get them to smile or laugh or, talk about sports or whatever. Yeah. I mean, that to me, I always felt that closing and having sat in some of them, it's like, whoa, how did this customer feel when they, walked out of here? Because it was like, you felt like you were in a funeral home. I mean,
I feel like if we don't win them over,
get them to smile and laugh on their way out, and then just start talking. I was at a great one about a week and a half ago, and everyone was signed, everyone was happy, laughing, talking about, hey, we're going to move. Oh, I got to go buy a bed, and everyone was happy.
Right.
Where I've gone to others, and it was just like crickets in there.
Yeah.
And to create that atmosphere, as simple as it sounds, it's very common. Actually,
it is. And that's one thing that we hear a lot. And that's the biggest thing. And for me, I feel like for all real estate agents, whenever I'm trying to pitch myself to one, the biggest thing is they just need to ask themselves, like, is this title company, what is this title company doing for me? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of them that do good at their job, and they get the job done. But is that title company, do they have your back? Are they making your clients happy? Or it's the closing fun? Are they, holding your sign for you and taking the pictures at the end, and then making sure the wires are getting done? And it's, post-close getting to your clients on time. Are they explaining that portability? The stuff's all super important because it's a reflection of you, because you're usually the one that got them to us. And so
and we've been known to pop a few bottles of champagne.
Yeah. Closing table. We don't say no to that. So that's just my biggest thing. And just ask themselves, am I doing the most for myself and for my clients?
Yeah.
Because every transaction is totally different. And there's a lot of times there's a bump here and there, big or small. You get through it, but finally get to you guys, and they could still not be completely happy with what happened a week ago and finalizing a repair situation or something. But if they can leave your office with a smile on it because of something, people will forget that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's that last touch that you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for someone. Here's an idea for you, because one of the things I've been, all the video that I do and trying to get some of the agents, because the agents are being told video, right? And how simple it is just to create a reel. I'm waiting for that title company to have that put their logo in the back, have that camera already set up, and let them put them on the spot and let them do a video testimonial. Every single client.
Yeah. So we have the lighting, we have the sign.
Yeah.
We have everything. We just haven't put them on the spot.
Do that video testimonial. It's so, it is one, it's one thing when you post stuff, but obviously Instagram likes video, but actually someone actually saying it versus, you reading it off a little Facebook post.
Right.
Yeah.
I think would be
I know.
touch.
I know one of our agents.
It's one of my $1 million ideas.
Yeah, one of our he keeps telling me the same thing. He's like, "You guys got to start doing videos." I'm like,
Well, it
I'll
would
get
help.
there.
It would help some of your agents who are a little shy, I think, because they're afraid to take that step. But now you're doing it. They're standing there. Their customers doing a video testimonial. Now they can take that and post it on their YouTube page or Instagram page and make it look like they did it. But you did. That's an added value from your side.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll definitely try and get that going.
Because is too many of them are. If you look on their YouTube pages, the ones that do have YouTube pages are generally haven't posted in a year or 2 years and so forth. And YouTube Shorts are big right now. And that's a beautiful thing to sit there and have a log of every closing and every video testimonial through your YouTube Short.
Yeah, for sure.
So, anything else?
No, thank you for having us.
I mean, you often wonder at the end, there's, you're an hour, 20 minutes or so. And, did I cover it all? But when I actually start breaking it down, we start watching the video, I think you guys got across, your ideology, your personalities and so forth have come across in here. And hopefully the agents that will see it. And then when we cut it up, I'll send you the full video. You guys can cut it up some more. But I guarantee you out of this, you probably could have a dozen reels easily. Just little clips of you guys. So appreciate everyone who is still listening at this point, if you are. But the final question, each of you to answer, can't duplicate the other ones or ditto the other one. Is it more important who you know or what you know and why?
Who you know.
Who you know. Who you know, absolutely. Because you can always find the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they teach you in law school.
Yeah.
There's always an answer.
There's always 3 different answers for sure. Yeah, it's all about who you know, especially in our industry. It's literally
in the law field, I mean, everyone thinks that, they're watching Law and Order or something like that, right? Those shows like that. Or what was the old timer? What was his name from Matlock? That's
okay.
Yeah. And obviously, well, of course, he's been through so many cases, right? So he's got it all up there. But from the attorney standpoint, there is so much out there that you really just need to know where to go find it or who to ask and give you directions of where to find it, because there's so much law on the books. No one person can actually just sit there and spiel that off unless they've been doing it for 40 years and already have, been through a lot of those cases already. Am I right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And that goes back to the whole, when you were asking us those questions, I said, that's a different attorney.
Yeah.
And we have no problem doing that. We have attorneys that obviously refer those kind of things to different family trusts, all that kind of stuff. And that's where it comes to knowing someone that can say, hey, I know this much of the answer, but this person can give you the rest of the answer.
Because they've actually treaded that turf. Yeah.
And you don't want me doing your trust. Well, I can't do it. I don't do trusts every day. You know what I mean? So you want to go to that person that's in their wheelhouse, and you want the person that's staying in their wheelhouse, in my personal opinion.
And specializes.
Yeah. That's because they've seen more than someone that's doing all the things.
They may pay a little bit more for that, but then they got somebody who, like I said, is gone a lot more miles down that path than you have.
Yeah, for sure.
And can poke all the holes in it and so forth and make sure, because that's why you're doing it, right? To make sure you're in the proper legal position, insurance wise and so forth. Ladies, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.